On today's episode, we talk about some college football changes that could affect your Texas Longhorns. Your Texas baseball team is in the H for the Shriners Classic. We'll preview those matchups. Plus, you know, this is a Chris Beard Stan account. I praise the Texas men's basketball coach as we end the regular season. It's Friday, Longhorn Nation.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Longhorns, your daily number one source for all things Texas athletics. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jonathan Davis, the voice of University of Texas football and basketball. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Longhorns your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Longhorns on YouTube for exclusive content and to put a face behind the voice of your favorite podcast. Make sure you like us, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. Anything less than that, I have to believe you're not listening hard enough. It's Friday, once again, Longhorn Nation, and y'all know how we do it on this podcast. Let's get right into it. So the College Football Rules Committee is in Indianapolis this week. It seems like everybody is in Indianapolis, whether it's for the NFL Combine. Shout out to Josh Thompson and Dicker, the kicker, Dicker, the special teamer, representing the Texas Longhorns at the NFL Combine. But the College Football Rules Committee are also in Indy, and they're cooking up some big changes. They're talking about some big changes that could potentially affect the Texas Longhorns football team and every football team in the country. So their main goal is to limit plays, limit exposure in the name of player safety, right? They're trying to speed up the game. So how many less plays can teams run? How many less exposures can these players take? And how would that affect player safety moving forward? So the Rules Committee has been meeting to discuss how teams can play less football. If you're an audio listener, I have air quotations on less football. So their key premise is that players are potentially exposed to harm when they are playing football, and playing less of it is the goal. And so we've seen them try this before in 2006, where they tried to speed up the game by starting the clock as soon as the player would kick off the opening kick instead of when the kick was received, and other rules like that sped up the game. And we saw a significant decrease in plays per game and scoring per game. And, you know, a lot of teams complained about that. Teams started running kind of, no huddle offenses, up tempo offenses to, replace or compensate for the plays that they were losing, for the offense that they were losing at the time because of those college football rule changes. And so now college football is looking again to find creative ways to speed up the game, expose these players to less harm. And you have to think a big reason for that is the legal ramifications. When you have so many, these are college students, right? So you have so many lawsuits of players getting hurt and different things happening. And college football is trying to protect their sport. They're trying to protect their brand. And ultimately, I'm trying to protect the players that make up the brand and make up the sport by trying to find ways to speed up the game. You look at a rule like targeting, a lot of us think at times it's unfair and it's excessive. But that's just their way of cleaning up the game and saying we're not tolerating these excessive hits. If you hit a player, in the head, if you lead with your head, you will be ejected from the game. It's just them making an example out of the players, letting everybody in college football know that will not be acceptable. And so we've seen kind of player safety, how that's potentially affected some college football rule changes and just rule changes in football, period. A lot of people, me included, were not fond of the college football playoff, deciding not to go to 12 teams. I think that 4 teams does not give you the opportunity to accurately decide who the champion is each year. I think there's more than 4 teams every year in college football who are worthy of competing for a national championship. And you have those 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th teams on the outside looking in, and you never know what's going to happen in a one-game scenario. Any team that's at 5, 6, 7, or 8 can come in and beat a team that's at 1, 2, 3, or 4. But a big reason that, the ACC, SEC, and certain conferences have turned down the college football playoff going from 4 to 12 teams is because if it goes from 4 to 12 teams, that means that's more football that these players have to play. and more football that these players have to play, according to the College Football Rules Committee, and just the statistics shows that they're more exposed to harm, and that is something they're trying to shy away from. So once again, a big reason that college football has not moved to the 12-team playoff yet is in the name of player safety, right? They don't want players having to play more games, exposing themselves to harm, exposing themselves to these hits. And we know that football players, we see them smiling on TV and walking around making appearances and stuff, but football is a tough and dangerous game. And, you take these hits in the trenches or just these hits, and it, a lot of times you have lifetime damage, like it may not be anything that prevents you from living life, but this football takes a toll on your body, and it's going to take a toll on your body for the remainder of your life. We see so many players retiring earlier now, just understanding what the game of football does to your mind and to your body. And we see players walking away once they've gotten their money and they're healthy. We just saw Ali Marpet, the offensive lineman from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, retire at 28. And everybody's saying 28, that's so young. But I mean, he's been taking hits since high school. He's been taking NFL hits for 7 years. He's won a Super Bowl. He's got his money. And he said he wanted to walk away healthy. We looked at Aaron Donald, who, talked about, of course, he's probably going to come back now, but he talked about retiring at the Rams winning the Super Bowl. And it's like, why retire so early? But he's accomplished everything he wants to accomplish, and he's consistently taking hits in the trenches. So players are starting to understand, teams are starting to understand, and college football is really starting to understand, the NFL really starting to understand what the toll that these hits and this contact takes on the players, and that's a big reason that they're implementing these rule changes. We also saw in the NFL why, overtime rules, if you look at the Chiefs and the Bills game, a lot of people were like, oh, Josh Allen didn't get the ball back. Why don't teams both get a chance to possess the ball? Well, a big reason for that, too, is they don't want players exposed to more plays. They want players taking more hits. If you give both teams a chance to score, that's only more potential for a player to get hurt. That's only extending the game, only allowing players the potential to go out there and something bad can happen. So we've seen already how, in the name of player safety, it's affected college football and NFL rules that maybe fans and some players would like to see changed. And so 2 of the rules that they are potentially adding to college football this year, the first one is they're going to treat incomplete passes as if you were running out of bounds. So right now, if you throw an incomplete pass, the clock will not start again until the ball is snapped. They are trying to change that to where the ball will snap when the referee signals ready to play. So that is a big change. The second one is, which I agree with, I've never agreed with them doing this in college football. I don't think it accurately prepares you for the NFL. It's not stopping the clock after a player gets a first down. So we know that in college football, when players get first downs, when players get first downs, the clock stops. And like I said, I've just never agreed with that, but I get it. And I think if you're preparing players for the NFL, that doesn't happen in the NFL. So they're trying to speed up the game. These 2 rules would speed up the game. If you have, especially in, clutch situations, late game situations, if you throw an incomplete pass and that you have to get to the line of scrimmage and be ready to snap the ball when the referee signals ready to play, that speeds up the game, kind of forces offenses to go more up tempo. But if you don't, that, limits plays in the game because more time is running off the clock after incomplete passes. And then, of course, every time that a person gets a first down, the clock will stop, which would slow down the game, allow for more plays. But if you get the first down and you have to, hurry up and get to the line of scrimmage, or just the clock is running, that takes away less exposure and less plays in the game as well. So I agree with some of these rules, just because I know, I've seen the effects that football can have on your body, and it's a dangerous sport. And, the SEC, they looked up some statistics and said that if you can limit a certain amount of plays per game, you're almost guaranteeing that college football players will play about 1.2 games less per season. And so that's huge, when you talk about college football players and the impact that football has on their body. So I'm in full support of these college football rule changes. I do think we saw when they implemented those rules I spoke about earlier in 2006, it led to a lot more up-tempo offenses and coaches trying to compensate for those plays that they were missing. I think that would do it again. And that affects a team like the Texas Longhorns, who probably want to play fast because they have so much offensive firepower. If if there's first down, after first downs, the clock continues to run. And after incomplete passes, the clock will run when the referee signals ready to play. I think you'll see teams compensate for that once again by going to a more up-tempo offense. And a team like Texas that has so many playmakers will probably go to a more up-tempo offense to make sure they're getting as many plays as possible, to make sure they're scoring as many points as possible. So once again, just two potential college football rule changes that you could see very soon after incomplete passes. The clock will start on the referees ready to play rather than when the ball is snapped. And secondly, they're taking away potentially the clock stopping after a player gets a first down in college football. Some huge rule changes that could affect how this game is played forever. March Madness is only a few weeks away. That means you need to start thinking now about where you're going to be running your brackets this year. Are you going for the usual, or are you looking for the best? We've done our homework, and we're running brackets with RunYourPool.com. Along with standard brackets, RunYourPool offers game types like Survivor or Pick X. They have options to edit scoring, and they offer more intel to make your picks. All stuff you won't find at ESPN or CBS. If you've got a business, RunYourPool can help you take some of that madness magic and play alongside your employees or even game customers. Plus, they offer full white glove customer support, custom branding, and one of the easiest 3-minute setups you'll ever find. Clearly, we believe in Run Your Pool because, like I said, we're running our brackets there ourselves. There's no truer test than that. If you want to play against us for a shot at a cash prize, join us at runyourpool.com/lockedon. And while you're there, create your own pool for your friends and family. Enter Pure Madness at checkout for $10 off your custom pool. All the rules and details will be available there. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon for your chance to win a cash prize. We look forward to seeing and beating you there. So your Texas Longhorns college baseball team are undefeated. They are now 9-0, heading to Houston to start tonight a 3-game series in the Shriners Classic. They'll be playing at Minute Maid Park, where the Houston Astros play their home games. And so tonight they play Tennessee. Tomorrow they play, who do they play tomorrow? LSU. I'm sorry. And then on Sunday, they play UCLA. So 3 games against 3 really tough teams. But Texas is the number 1 team in the country. So it's going to be a tougher matchup for those teams rather than the Texas Longhorns. When you look at Tennessee, they're 8-0. They scored 121 runs in their 8 games. I don't know if you've seen yet, but they have a pitcher, Ben Joyce, who's throwing 103 miles per hour, 100 consistently. He's nasty. He's looking like he's going to be an early round draft pick in baseball next year, if we even have a season and have a draft next year. Jesus. But Tennessee looks really good, and it's probably going to be the toughest test for Texas so far tonight at 7 in Houston. On Saturday, they play LSU, and LSU is 8-1. They slipped up and lost to Louisiana Tech, but since then they're outscoring opponents 52-6. So a really good baseball team, a tough matchup for Texas on Saturday. And then on Sunday, I will be in the building at 3 o'clock when the Texas Longhorns take on the UCLA Bruins. Now, UCLA is probably the least toughest matchup out of these 3 between Tennessee, LSU, and UCLA. So UCLA comes in 6-3. They started off 2-3. They have won 4 straight. But really what bodes well for the Texas Longhorns is that Tennessee, LSU, and UCLA have yet to play a Power 5 opponent. And we saw what Texas was able to do when they played Alabama, who came into that series undefeated, came to Austin 5-0, left Austin 5-3. And so I think Texas has a huge advantage there. And then they're coming off the win on Tuesday against the Sam Houston Bearcats, a game that was never in doubt. So your Texas Longhorns baseball team, number 1 team in the country, got some stiff competition this weekend in Houston. But I think we should all be excited to watch this team, watch them play against some really stiff competition and see where they stack up. You know, we know that they're the number 1 team in the country, probably have the most talented roster from top to bottom. But, you know, of course, they play a lot of games. They're not going to go undefeated. And so, you know, one of these teams could Texas this weekend. Of course, if they're able to go undefeated, it just continues to validate. The BetOnline thinks they're the best. They have the best odds to win the College World Series. Most experts think they have the best odds to win the College World Series. I've said on this podcast that they're going to win the College World Series. And so 3 wins this weekend will just go a long way to proving that. But even if they go 2-1, I doubt they go 1-2. This team is just too talented. And, they're going to be the best team on the field, on the diamond, whoever they go against. But even if they slip up and lose this weekend, this is still the best team in the country in college baseball. And when you look at it right now, they have 6 players hitting over 300 for the season in 9 games. The pitching staff has a .67 ERA, earned run average, a .88 whip, a sub-1 whip from your entire pitching staff is insane. Whip is walks plus hits per inning. So they're giving up less than 1 walk plus hit per inning. That's insane stuff for my people that don't watch baseball. And then they are allowing a 165 batting average to their opponents while this team is hitting 300 collectively. So the team is hitting 300 and allowing a 165 batting average, the best team in the country, and looking forward to supporting the baseball team. Once again, I'll be in the building at Minute Maid on Sunday to watch them play against UCLA. I'm glad that's the game I'm watching, because Tennessee and LSU are a little stiffer than UCLA. But either way, it's going to be 3 great games, and you're going to really see this Texas baseball team get challenged this weekend. But hopefully, hook them. They come out 3-0 and continue to dominate teams on their way to Omaha this summer. Coming up next, once again, I told you this is a Chris Beard Stan account. I praise Chris Beard for his first season with the Texas Longhorns, and we get into a little preview of their last regular season game tomorrow against Kansas. Hungry? Try Built Bar, especially the Puffs. If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat. And they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. So good. These are going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Even the Puffs, 100% real chocolate. Low calorie, high protein. Stop eating candy bars. Eat Built Bars. Easier said than done. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and new white chocolate cookies and cream. They are all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If they think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It will be delicious, and it will be good for you. At Built Bar, they are all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every single time. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Longhorn Nation, we have to praise Chris Beard for the job that he has done this season. I know that's tough to say coming off a loss to Baylor. They lost twice to Baylor this year. I know it's tough when you lost to Texas Tech twice this year. That's a game that we wanted to win twice. They were talking all kind of mess. We went into Lubbock. They tried to make it hostile. They were screaming and yelling all kind of crazy stuff on ESPN. I mean, they was just in there like, we did something to them. We did take their coach, but, they were in there mad at us, and they validated, they won that game. And then they came into Austin. They took some tickets away from the students. They found the code. They was on Reddit. I don't know what they was on. And they got the codes from the students. And they bought up that game, had half the arena, half the Irwin Center in red and black. And they won that game, So I think this team, I said it before, I think this team is a victim of their success. And success breeds expectations. And so when you go out there and you beat a Kansas or you beat a Tennessee, which is looking like 2 really good wins. Tennessee and Kansas are 2 of the best 15 teams in college basketball right now. You expect more. But we have to, not look at the negatives and look at the positives and praise what Chris Beard has done this season for the Texas Longhorns basketball team. So I'm going to put it in perspective for you to help you do that. Chris Beard this season has won the most games in the regular season since 2015, 2016, when Rick Barnes was the head coach. Once again, Chris Beard has won the most regular season games at the 40 acres in men's basketball since Rick Barnes was the head coach. He's doing pretty good. If he wins a NCAA tournament game this year, and Texas will likely be a 4 or 5 seed, unless they just collapse in the Big 12 tournament. If he wins an NCAA tournament game this year, it will be Texas basketball's first NCAA tournament win since Rick Barnes was the head coach. He's doing pretty well. 3 out of the 9 losses this season by the Texas basketball team, I would consider bad. Only 3. Kansas State at home, they only lost by 1 point, but I'll give you that. That's a bad loss. Okay. They also lost to Oklahoma State on the road. This team wasn't great on the road this year, but Oklahoma State, I'll give you that. That's a bad loss. They lost to Iowa State, and the way that Iowa State looks now, they've completely collapsed. So I'll give you that. That's a bad loss. At the time, they were ranked. They were looking good, but now, they scored 36 points last night in a total game, not in a half, in a total game. So it looks horrible now. So I'll give you that. That's a bad loss. Outside of that, they lost to Gonzaga, number 1 team in the country. Seton Hall, ranked. 2 losses to Baylor, one of the best teams in the country. And 2 losses to Texas Tech, one of the best teams in the country. So 3 out of their 9 losses are bad. And I'm kind of really, it's 2.5 for me because, once again, Iowa State was rolling at the time. Just kind of looking at it, now as a horrible loss. But Chris Beard is doing really well. He has brought a toughness, a grittiness, and attention to detail that this program has not seen since Rick Barnes was the head coach. And I love Shaka Smart. I thought he could have done more, but I don't think that he did a bad job. I just think that Chris Beard has came in and elevated this program since taking over. Once again, brought in a grittiness, a toughness, and attention to detail, and just a fire that we haven't seen from this Texas men's basketball program in years. He brought in 7 transfers, all coming in that were probably the number 1 options at their respective schools outside of like a Devin Askew and players like that. But you got a Marcus Carr, who was one of the leading scorers in college basketball last year at Minnesota. Trey Mitchell, who was probably the best player on that UMass team. Timmy Allen, who was the number 1 option on that Utah team. And they came in and he's had to gel them and turn them from just kind of number 1 scorers, doing everything from their program, into being part of a winning culture and a winning basketball team. And he's largely done that with this team going 21-9. So once again, Chris Beard doing a really good job. And I love the fireside chats. If you haven't seen it yet, you have to go check out the fireside chat with Matthew McConaughey. He did one with Rick Barnes before the Tennessee game. Just a really good idea, something I think that I want to bring to the podcast for my YouTube viewers. I definitely want to do a fireside chat at some point this year. I will do a fireside chat. Actually, let me put it on wax. I will do a fireside chat at some point this year in honor of Chris Beard, my favorite coach in college basketball, coaching my favorite team in college basketball. So tomorrow, to close out the regular season, they have a tough matchup against Kansas. We saw they were able to beat Kansas in the Irwin Center, probably their best win of the season thus far, although Tennessee looks really, really, really good right now and can make some noise in the NCAA tournament. They won that game 79-76. And some keys for this game, if they want to win in a very tough environment in Lawrence, where Kansas doesn't lose pretty often. So it's going to take a lot of attention to detail. And these 3 things I'm about to mention to you. 1, they have to limit Ojai Abachi offensively, the leading scorer in the Big 12 right now with over 20 points a game. They held him to 11 points last time out on 11 shots. Courtney Ramey was huge defensively, just kind of face guarding him, not allowing him to get the ball. And when he did get the ball, forcing him into tough shots, not allowing him to get to the rim. So they're going to have to limit Ojai Abachi offensively. Again, easier said than done. He's one of the best players in the country, one of the best players in college basketball. But you have no chance if you allow him to go, for 25-30. So you have to limit him offensively. 2 is you have to keep Deshaun Harris and Christian Braun off the 3-point line. Once again, you're in a hostile environment in, Lawrence, Kansas, at Kansas. And if they get to hitting threes and just making tough shots like that, then that crowd is going to erupt, and it's going to be good night for the Texas Longhorns basketball team. So they're going to have to limit their three-point shooting, force them off the three-point line, and make them make tough shots. Like I said, if they get to making threes and that crowd gets into it, it's going to be really tough for the Texas Longhorns to weather that storm and win that basketball game. And then third, they're going to have to limit turnovers. So Kansas is really good at forcing turnovers, especially when they're at home, getting out on the break. They have so many athletes, just make plays, throwing alley-oops, get into the rim and ones, get into the free throw line. And so you can't allow – we know that Texas is one of the best defensive teams in the country. You can't allow Kansas to get easy buckets in this game. You have to force them to play in the half court and have your defense set. If you turn the ball over, they will get the ball, they will run out, and they will score easy baskets on you, and you just have no chance of winning this game. So they have to limit turnovers, be efficient on the offensive end. Marcus Carr is going to have to get into the paint and get to his spots, kind of force defenders, beat defenders off the dribble, get to the rim, kind of do that little turnaround jumper that he does in the paint. Andrew Jones is going to have to get back to the Andrew Jones that scored 3 straight 20-point games for the first time in his career. He's been cold lately. He's going to have to hit threes. Courtney Ramey is going to have to be good offensively. He's going to have to give you double digits, I think. And then Courtney Bishop and Timmy Allen are going to have to win the matchup down low, or at least not lose it. It's going to be tough. Now we're missing size with Trey Mitchell, and this is a team that's just, struggled with bigger teams, but they're going to have to at least not lose the matchup down low or win it, if Texas wants to win this game. But regardless of what happens tomorrow, Chris Beard has had a hell of a season in his first year with this Texas men's basketball program. The future is bright moving forward. And I think this is a team that nobody wants to see in the Big 12 Conference Tournament and in the NCAA tournament. One of the best teams, especially on defense in college basketball, and have a lot of offensive firepower that if it clicks in any one game, this team can go far. So I said on the podcast yesterday, I think Sweet 16 might be the ceiling for this team, which is really good, especially in Chris Beard's first year. But anything can happen. That's why it's called March Madness. Thank you, Longhorn Nation, for once again tapping into Locked On Longhorns and making us your first listen of the day. I hope you have a great weekend. Make sure you're supporting your Texas basketball teams, men and women, as the women play the last basketball game in the Irwin Center tomorrow. The men on the road at Kansas. And then, of course, your number one baseball team in the country is in Houston for a 3-game set. Peace.